Okay, my name is Adolfo Romero, and today I'm here with Dr. Zina Evans and Marianne Quijano. And today we will be talking about the Machen, Florida Opportunity Scholars Program. And my name is Adolfo Romero. Today is Friday, December 11, 2020. And we would like to begin by asking Dr. Evans a question about when did you become involved at UF? When did you arrive at UF? Please tell us a little bit about your experiences. Just starting off with an introduction.
Okay, sure. I first arrived at the University of Florida in 2006, the summer of 2006, actually. And my I came here originally as an assistant provost and director of undergraduate admissions. And I arrived just at the time that MFOS, or the Matching Florida Opportunity Scholars Program, was launching. And so it was a great opportunity to also be able to work with Patricia T. Zervin, who was the vice president who worked with Dr. Machen in the original concept and design of the MFOS program. And so to be able to work with her and to hear from her what her goals were, it was very helpful then for us on the enrollment management side of things then to work with that information so that we could be able to attract and award this particular scholarship program. In my role now as Vice President for Enrollment Management, both admissions and financial aid report into enrollment management. And so therefore, I have an opportunity to stay engaged both with the outreach and recruitment side. And that's where we work to make students aware of the fact that this scholarship does exist. And to really work to help students to understand that there is a way to pay for college. And that if you don't think you can go to college because of finances, then there's something like, this program or other scholarships or other financial aid, and then working on the financial aid side of things, and then the final selection. So I've been involved with the program for, like I said, from the first class that came in with the scholarship.
Fantastic. Can you tell me a little bit about the process of enrollment and finances, how it functions? Maybe begin with enrollment.
Sure. So what happens is for the scholarship in particular, we make students aware of the program at the front end. And then students move through the admissions process as if they would any other, all students. And so then once we have that group of students that we are going to admit, then we identify those students who meet the three basic criteria. And that is first in their family to go to college, so first gen, 40,000, a family income, no more than $40,000 a year, and a Florida resident. So those are the three. Then we go in and we identify students who meet those basic three categories. And then the program has evolved over time, but from that particular point, once we have that pool or cohort, and we've offered 300 of these scholarships for many years now, and we were lucky enough that this year we got to offer an additional 50 that for the fall of 20. And we'll be adding another 50 in the fall of 2021. So we will have increased the cohort to 400 and have a steady state of 400 of these scholarships. And so once we have that pool, it's always larger than the number of scholarships that we have, available to give students. So then the process begins of determining need and going through however many students it is, making students aware that they're eligible for this scholarship, and then gathering all the necessary financial information that we may need to have in order to select those 300 to 400 students to get the scholarship. And then the then the final scholarship is awarded. So it ends up being on the front end of, like I said, a very exciting opportunity for students and parents, and even high school counselors and others to know about and to understand that when they have students who it appears they don't have the resources to go to college, that there is this opportunity, because the Machen Florida Opportunity Scholars covers fully room, board, covers fully tuition and fees, and that gives you the necessary funds that you need for room and board. And so it is a full scholarship for the students. But then the part that I think that makes this scholarship so unique and goes beyond what maybe we're doing in other areas or even at other institutions is we from the very beginning, it was recognized that simply giving out money is not really going to help the students to be successful, that it has to be definitely to meet that financial need that students have, but also it needs to have these wraparound support services so that these students can be successful. If they are the first in their families to have gone to college, then they may not be as sophisticated in knowing and understanding how to navigate the process, how to navigate the transition to college, and how to engage with faculty in office hours or any number of things. So that was what was recognized from the very beginning. And so therefore, the program was designed not just as here's the money, but it has financial literacy, workshops embedded in it. It has transition workshops embedded in it. It has leadership opportunities. It has all of these other pieces that support the students, that they can be far more successful when they're here, besides just saying, okay, your finances are covered, now go figure the rest out yourself. And so I think the model of your finances are covered and let's make sure you connect with the appropriate resources to be successful is really what makes this particular model work. So there's the admissions outreach, making sure people are aware, engaging those students, helping them to understand the opportunities. There's the financial side of selecting who gets the scholarship. And then there's that support and wraparound side that continues to nurture those students throughout their 4 years. Because the scholarship is for 4 years or 8 semesters. So if a student stops out for a semester, that semester is not held against them. They pick right back up again once they return, and they still have their 8 semesters.
Fantastic. Thank you for that elaborate answer. Another question I have, during the beginning, back in 2006 to current times, how did the process evolve? Has it evolved? Has it been the same? Has it adapted to new changes with the financial side of it, with the admission side of it, or things still remain the same from the very beginning?
One thing about the design of the program was that it is a nimble program. So we have those three foundational aspects, and that is first generation, low income, which was measured by $40,000 or less family income, and then a Florida resident. So those are the three that have been held steady since 2006 and have always been the same. Now, the actual scholarship in and of itself has adapted as cost of attendance have changed or shifted over the last, almost 20 years, or since the program began, I should say. So, yes, we have adapted it to fit the cost structure that we find ourselves in. We have done more on the outreach side I'd say for maybe the first 4 or 5 years, because students can't apply for this particular scholarship. It was sort of this behind the scenes that kind of happened after you had applied. And it wasn't really something that we used to attract students so much as we used to retain students. And so that has shifted. And so we do much more of making sure that students and families know about it up front as an option. Whereas before, because you couldn't apply for it, we didn't do as much of that. But we have for about maybe the first 4 years or so, it was mostly a after the fact scholarship. And now we work really hard to make sure, and because we have so many alum and so many students, on average, we have about 1,200 students on campus each year who are MFOS scholars. And so between having them as ambassadors and having them to be able to speak to other students about what the scholarship is and how it has helped them, we've adjusted in that way to add more of the student voice in the early parts of the process than we had when we first began, when we really didn't have that cohort of students. And then, like I said, the actual financial value of it. And that's another thing that's been really great about this particular scholarship is that it was never X number of dollars. It's written so that it meets the needs to cover their cost of attendance. And so if the university's cost of attendance fluctuates, then the scholarship is designed so it fluctuates with it. So it's not like, gee, it's $25,000 a year, but then if suddenly cost of attendance is tuition and fees, and then, housing and food and, computer and, all these other variables that are included in the cost of attendance. So as costs go up or down, this scholarship is flexible enough to move with it. So those would be the things that I'd say have evolved over time.
That's fantastic. Especially with the cost of college nowadays, it's increasing and increasing exponentially. So that is great to hear that a program such as the MFOS is able to adapt and kind of like change it, go based off the university costs. What are some of the struggles that the program has faced or challenges? Just overall, have they had any challenges through maybe obtaining money through the finances? What would you say are some of the challenges that they face?
When the program was set up, the financing of it was set pretty steady. There's what's called a tuition differential, and the cost, the monies that the university receives. And very early on, it was determined that all funds from the tuition differential would go to this program. And so that has been a steady state, and it's an expensive program overall when you're talking about meeting the cost of attendance for these students. So it became clear early that the differential, while all that money would go to the program, it wasn't going to be enough to sustain it for the long term. So there was an endowment that was developed, and it was amazing to see how the UF community and the Gator community really stepped up and really wanted to contribute towards this endowment so that this particular scholarship program wouldn't run into the types of financial obstacles that you're talking about. And so in the early days of kicking it off, Billy Donovan and Urban Meyer were both part of that kickoff and engaging with the Gator Nation and getting them excited and involved. Dr. Machen was involved in it. And so being able to establish that endowment was critical to its success. And then also the program, as we've expanded it and its number of students, like I said, we're up to 350 students now, the foundation has worked very closely with the program to be able to access resources to be able to support adding additional students. So there is the endowment, there is the foundation's work, and also as part of the foundation work, the alumni associations many of them every year, that particular alumni group will give resources, pay for at least one MFOS student. And so there's several of the different alumni clubs all across the world who are also contributing on an annual basis to this program. So once the program had multiple streams of resources that are coming in, that's when we felt a lot more comfortable about its ability to be sustainable for a long period of time, instead of just relying on one financial source. And so that has been, I have to give it all the credit to Tom Mitchell and his team, who are just phenomenal in looking at this type of thing for the long haul and creating the necessary financial opportunities and resources that were varied. And, if you just don't rely on one resource, then the minute that one wobbles, you're in trouble. But if you have 3 or 4 different, then there's this chance that while this one may be fluctuating somewhat, these others might still have a steady flow. So there's the university money that is put into it. There's the endowment money that is put into it. There's money from alumni who contribute to the program. The foundation just has, it's one of the various ways that if you want to contribute to the university, you can do that. And then there was a campaign for MFOS alumni who graduated, who were in the program, if they wanted to give back, and for them to give back to the program as well. So the multiple streams of resources has really been beneficial in helping to maintain this particular type of scholarship.
By any chance, does the state of Florida help out in any way? I know other programs usually are state grants they provide to the institutions for that specific purpose.
Yes, the state has early in the process, the state had a grant matching program, and they would match the dollar amount up to a certain amount. And so the MFOS program was part of that program to get that match. So that is the money that the state does offer towards this particular scholarship.
Okay. Right now, with the pandemic going on, it must be a bit different to adapt, and it must be a little bit more difficult to choose the students, or not just the students, but to integrate the students into the system. Can you tell me a little bit about that? How are you guys dealing with that? Have you guys done anything differently than previous years?
Yes, and you're absolutely right. This, 2020 will go down in history with an asterisk next to it as being just a year of multiple challenges. And there was definitely, because of the timing of when the whole, U.S. went into lockdown. And so the engagement during the yield process and the engagement for when we actually have selected students, and now we're helping them to understand what their admissions and financial aid offers are, and then make informed decisions about coming. Well, this was a much more challenging year to do that, because students and their families had a variety of different concerns, whether or not, I just read an article yesterday, actually, in the Chronicle of Higher Education, that said this year, the number of students continuing straight from high school to college dropped by over 20%. And it was even larger drops among students who were first gen, went to urban high schools, and tend to be Black or Latinx. Those were the students that were most greatly impacted. So we did a lot more work this year in calling, and not just talking to students, but even talking with parents and helping them to understand about what this scholarship would be able to do, as they and their families were experiencing, significant financial struggles. If a parent or a primary person in their life having lost their job, money being tight, perceiving the need that they need to get a job versus to contribute versus going home, or seeing that, we had a limited amount of funds anyway, and now that's even more reduced. So we spent a lot more time talking with parents and with students one-on-one, spending that time calling and helping them to understand, what this transition and how their students would be supported. And I don't think that is going to go away. We're, as a country, there's still a lot of families in, financial situations that they never would have imagined a year ago. And so we will continue. And one of the things that we added to our ability to assist students was we're using a tool called Landscape, which gives us a lot of really good information about the finances and the economics of a particular area in all across the United States, and how many free and reduced lunch come from a particular school. So having this landscape information gives us information before we even engage with a student, that this student is coming from this environment. So how are we going to help them to understand how this opportunity could be supportive for them? And also helping students to understand that, what the academic environment would be at UF with respect to face-to-face classes. Would they feel safe under the circumstances with COVID and these kind of things? So there was a lot of work done in the spring. And as I said, I don't think that's going to change much. So it'll probably be part of how we engage moving forward.
Yeah, I was also thinking while I was listening to what you were talking about with coping with the COVID-19 pandemic is how might have MFOS or the program in general dealt with the effects of the much earlier 2008 recession? Do you see any parallels about how enrollment and retainment of students and outreach of students might have changed also during that period?
Yeah, I think the difference between the two was in 2008 when there was a recession. It was a recession in and of itself, and we didn't have also a public health issue. So this was just, I shouldn't say it's just, this was a financial issue. It was driven by the collapse of various markets. And so in that environment, it was very important for us to be able to articulate the kind of long-term financial gain in, not going straight to work, but spending this time in college, and what was going to be your gain, your earning potential in 4 years, or when you completed your degree, versus if you went right now and started working. There was going to be this gap. We all know that if you have a college degree, your ability to earn higher wages increases. So those were the types of conversations we had to have, helping students to understand the long-term effect of making a decision of not to go to college at this time or to go, and to show them how they could do it financially because of this particular scholarship and the support, the scholar part of the support that it was in it. That was 2008. This time, we have all of that plus the public health issue. And the public health issue is far more emotional. It's far more attached to, your family's livelihood from a financial and just a health perspective. So that's what made it very different this time is, how do you convince how do you convince a student and their parents when they're dealing with such a dramatic health crisis to say leaving to go away from college will benefit this scenario when people are really sick, or even if some of them have died. So it's a different kind of a conversation. The conversation is much more complex. The conversation is much more, not just about the financial gain over the next 4 years, but how can I continue to support my family more on the health side of things as I do my education, as I move to Gainesville from South Florida, how am I going to stay connected? And dealing with some guilt that students had, many students for the fall term were online. And so they could try to balance that being home and in school. But as we add more and more face-to-face classes, then helping students to make that transition. And I think I think mental health issues and stress and anxiety existed previously in 2008. I think the way it exists now is heightened. And so we are conscientious of that and what that transition and what opportunities and services we might have as a university. So while they do have some similarities, they also had some glaring differences that we had to address.
Okay, great answer, Dr. Evans. So I wanted to hear a little bit about the interactions with the students. I'm not sure if you talk to them one-on-one, do they come to you once in a while with questions? And I just wanted to hear some of the stories. Maybe you could share with us.
Actually, I wouldn't be the best person to answer that question. Um, our role often in enrollment for on the admission side is just making sure that those students are aware and getting them in and then moving through the application process. I think other people across campus probably have more engagement when they're here. Now, our financial aid office, talking with Donna Kolb or some folks from there, they do, because, their family emergencies or financial emergencies, there are all different kind of things may come up. And we do have an emergency fund and how, you're able to be there to support those students through those funds. So, there's probably other people on campus that would be able to answer this question much better than me.
Okay, no problem. I have a lot of questions, so no worries. Okay, following a question that I have, I wanted to see like the interaction between financial aid and student enrollment. Universities are kind of prone to have at least the universities that I've attended, financial aid, student enrollment is it's hard to connect them together, get instant access to all the resources right away, in the sense that communication between one to the other, that might take time. I just want to see what's the relationship between the two and how efficient is it? Sending news, getting news back. Is that you guys have it seems like you guys seem to have a really good relationship and in communicating with each other. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, well, when you say connecting with enrollment, what are you talking about exactly?
I guess because in order for the student to get accepted, they need to apply, they need to get accepted first, and that would be through enrollment, correct? And then the information, I'm assuming it gets sent to financial aid, and financial aid
Oh,
then.
okay. Yeah,
It's
no,
just that
we
link.
have a much, yeah, no, we have a much tighter link than that. And because if financial aid and admissions, along with the registrar's office and the welcome center, all report into the same structure that I oversee as VP of Enrollment Management. So those two offices work in collaboration. And so there is a point in which the financial, not financial aid, the admissions folks have completed their review, but even before that, the financial aid office is given the same access to this tool that I was talking about, Landscape. Both admissions and financial aid have access to this tool. So they both already have a sense of what a community or what a high school or whatever the student is coming from looks like with respect to finance and opportunities and things of that nature. So they have worked collaboratively. Even, for example, well, pre-pandemic, and even now with the virtual, financial aid goes out with the admissions folks to talk about the scholarship. So financial aid is out there, at events with students and parents, at, visits to high schools and talking to people. So it's not a matter of admissions gets their part done and then they pass them on. We try to integrate it and collaborate as much as possible. For example, financial aid was very much involved in calling admitted students during the after the period after we admit and before they confirm with us. That period is called yield, where we've said yes to them and now we want to answer their questions to see how many of them want to say yes to us. And financial aid is even deeply involved in that process, whether it's holding, participating in panels or holding sessions for parents to talk about paying for college or literacy workshops. So they stay, those two offices stay engaged and collaborating throughout the process, so that it isn't just, you don't pay attention until it's your time. No, we want to make sure that both groups understand the tone and the expectations and all of these things for students and families as they're making decisions about going to college. And one of those big decisions is, how am I going to pay for it?
Okay. Can you tell me what does the program mean to you? Just kind of a reflection for yourself on the program.
Mhm.
What has it mean, and how has it
Yeah.
changed in the years?
For me personally, as someone who is a first generation college student, to reflect back on what types of things were troubled me, as I was transitioning, and thinking about how do we address those questions for these students. And finances, how am I going to pay for this? That definitely is there, but also, again, the portion that Leslie and her team in student affairs does is so critical. And I can see the difference in the students when they arrive until that point, because I go to those receptions when they first get here and then go to the graduation ones. And just that level of confidence that I see in those students who doubted that they could even go to college, not because they didn't want to go, nor because they didn't have the academic profile or the academic foundation to be successful in college, but merely because they didn't know all the ins and outs of it, or they didn't have the money to pay for it. So to me personally, knowing that we can have an impact like that on students' lives, that they can go to college and leave college debt, their undergraduate, and leave debt free, is just an amazing sense of accomplishment, that we've been able to design a process that supports students in that way. And when you look at the retention of these students, it's as good, if not higher than the rest of the UF population. When you look at their overall GPA, their engagement with the campus, all of these things. So all of that to me says we're doing something good. These students are getting here, they're staying, they're graduating, they're going on to great graduate schools and professional law school and medical school. And to think that 4 years ago they didn't even recognize the possibility of this. And so that's what's fulfilling for me, that that outlook that they have and that recognition that they have, that they can do it, is what makes me excited about the program every year.
Yeah, that's all great to hear, especially seeing how students can realize and see their own potential. That's always a great thing to hear about from these interviews. I was wondering, in terms of enrollment, what NFOS, the program, what its interaction with, or how it works in tandem with programs like McNair and McKnight. Do the programs talk to each other? How does it go about choosing which students should or is the best fit for which program?
Yeah, actually, there can be overlap. A student could be MFOS, McNair, or whatever the various opportunities on campus. And so the MFOS students, this is a financial support, and it pays up to the cost of attendance. And so therefore, if there's another scholarship program or whatever, or an opportunity that they've brought forward, they were selected for, there's no problem at all with those students being a part of both of them. Even the group Promise, the students that come in, we have a group of students that come in during the summer. They might even be part of that group. So there's no, this scholarship does not limit a student's access to any other opportunities that are on campus. In fact, I think if you were to talk to Leslie, the director of the program, that she'd tell you that it encourages that. It wants the students. So those students that are really interested in going on to graduate school, how are they connected with McNair? And each of these programs have their own method for selecting students. And so, and like I said, there's nothing that inhibits an MFOS student from applying to any other program on campus.
You were talking a little bit about outreach and going to kind of like centralizing yourselves, looking at specific locations where you might be able to get more students to apply to UF. I think one of the previous interviews that we talked to one of our interviewers or narrators, they were telling us about people don't really find out about the MFOS until they get accepted into the university. So when you're doing the outreach, do you tell them about specifically about the Machen Florida Opportunities Program, or how do you guys go about it when you're doing the outreach? Or it's just like, hey, apply, we have resources at the university?
Yeah, no. Well, whoever you interviewed is probably thinking about the MFOS program of old. And there was a time, like I said, in those first 4 years when it was, after the fact. But that's not how it is anymore. So we're actively out there talking with students, talking with parents, introducing this scholarship, introducing the fact that this is, the minimum, these are the minimum 3 criteria that it takes in order to be eligible. So I would have to, I'm quite sure the person that you talked to before, that may have been their perspective of what goes on. But in reality, what happens is that the admissions team, as well as those who travel with admissions from financial aid, are out there talking about this scholarship and helping students to recognize that it exists and that they may be eligible.
I was wondering if in this coming years or even recently right now, if you ever see MFOS the program having a ripple effect on other universities outside of Florida potentially, and if you see that as ultimately benefiting the mission that MFOS has, or if you see that as competition, so to speak, in terms of admission for
Yeah, I
US.
definitely see it as a compliment. At the end of the day, for these students, we just want them to go to college. We think UF is a fantastic place and will be a wonderful opportunity for them. But UF may not be the best fit. So at the end of the day, like I said, we just want these students to go to college and to realize their potential. So yes, have we talked to other institutions about the program? Absolutely. And would we be engaged with someone if they're trying to set up the same type of program? Absolutely. And I think that if you talk to the folks in the office there, you'll find that they do, often talk with other institutions about what we're doing and why it's so successful.
Where do you see the program within the next 5, 10 years, Dr. Evans?
I think that there will be the same level of need for this type of a program 5 or 10 years from now. I think it's going to take a while for us as a country to bounce back from the current recession that we're in. As we all rethink how we, socialize with each other as we get this COVID-19 under control and vaccinated and vaccines available to everyone. I think there will, all of this particular experience that we're in right now has brought to life some of the inequities that we knew existed, but that are compounded as students and families move through this experience that we're in right now. And it's not just going to go away in you get vaccinated one day and then all of this goes away. So I do see this particular type of a scholarship being something that is very valuable and is needed for many, many years to come. That there are going to be very, very bright and capable young people who are first generation, who the college, the opportunity to go to college seems like it's very dim for them. I don't think that will go away. And so long as this program continues to not only be about money or not only be about giving out money, but is also about supporting these students as they make the transition, as they build their confidence and become more into what their potential is. And so long as the program keeps that portion along with the finances, I think it will be successful for many, many years to come.
Thank you for that answer. Well, we're almost reaching 11 a.m. and I want to give you a couple minutes to kind of like, unwind before your next meeting. So, I would like to leave you with maybe a small reflection or just any other comments that you might have for the incoming students. Usually we ask our participants at the end just to give maybe like an advice or something to the upcoming students. What would be your advice for the next upcoming students?
Yeah, I think my advice would be the opportunity is there, and there are a lot of people across campus who want you to succeed. So take advantage of the opportunities and take advantage of the people who are here to support you, the people who are here who want you to succeed. You don't have to do this by yourself. You should, asking for help shows how smart you really are, and knowing that you can't do it alone, that you need to ask for help and to then go out there and get that help, because we wouldn't be here if we didn't want you to be successful. So that would be my advice.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for doing this interview with us today. And we thank you for coming in and taking some of your time off. I know you're a very busy person, so we appreciate that.
Okay, well, I really appreciate the fact that you all are doing this. I think it's going to be a wonderful project. And I look forward to seeing the outcome of it, the output of what you're doing. So,
fantastic. Thank you,
Dr. Have a good day and a great weekend.
Likewise. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.